Hello and welcome to the Mindset Mentor. I'm Tania Kolar, helping you cultivate a life you love. And you've heard me say it before, and I'm going to keep on reminding you that your mindset is like a muscle that needs to be strengthened and conditioned. So this is your mindset workout. So today we're going to focus on artistic vision and what it means to have, the mindset of an artist. We're also going to talk about energy as form. So fascinating. I'm actually really excited to welcome our special guest today, who is an incredible visual artist. He specializes in sculpture and painting and sort of contemporary media that has a real incredible focus on scientific and linguistic and mythological themes, which is absolutely fascinating. I don't know about you, but I love mythology, and it's really interesting to see that sort of come to life through art form. So how about we just say hello and welcome to Nikola Vudrag, who again is just such an incredible artist. I've seen many of his pieces, and when you have a chance to watch the video, you'll actually see some of the pieces, in his space. Joining me all the way from Croatia, Nikola, it's an absolute pleasure having you here. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, and it's the pleasure is all mine.
Oh, wonderful. I cannot wait to get started and really, get into your mindset because you have a really unique approach to looking at art and viewing art, certainly as energy. But before we kind of delve into that, I have a question because I know a lot of people are thinking, well, art, they can appreciate art, but they just don't believe that they have any sort of creativity, that they're not born with it and they need to have creativity from the onset to develop that. So I want to know what your thoughts are on having a creative mindset. Do you believe that everybody has that ability and they can tap into that somehow?
First of all, I think when you grow up, you lose your creativity and
Mm.
talent. Everybody has talent. It's just the willpower to pursue that talent leads you to the artistic life that you live. Because in the beginning, you are a child and you're interested in everything, and you start to create your own world in your head and around you. And then somewhere around high school,
Hmm.
you begin to think, how will I live in my life? What should I do? What should be my job and everything? And then you have to cherish the child in you. The You have to let go of the masks that the world puts on you and just be free in creation.
Oh, such a good answer. Oh my gosh, absolutely. It's so interesting because, yeah, we all are very creative and then life happens and then we lose that connection. I think there's, it's sort of like, missing that connection to your authentic core self. And we cannot recognize that creativity anymore. And that is stress, responsibility, other people's expectations, or the mask, so to speak, as you
Yeah.
call it. I love that. It's so true, right? But I think that when we can really sort of tap into that authentic being, so many wonderful things start to happen and the synchronicities in life really sort of emerge. I really wanted to, get that across right off the top because I want everyone to pay attention, to listen, and to develop your own talent, whatever that may be. I mean, there's a multitude of talent out there. Everybody has talent. There's, 7.8 billion people on the planet. There's no two people alike. And so I'd love to sort of go back in time, Nikola, if we can, to your upbringing as a child and the creativity and how you were able to foster that and maintain it and to grow your creativity.
I had great luck. My grandfather was a smith and a blacksmith and a welder. So I was hanging with him in his workshop. And when I was a child, he just gave me a piece of metal and told me, "Here, put this together." So I had a workshop that I can express myself. And then later on, I went to the theology school, which has a really wide range of science, of theology, philosophy, the languages, and all the cultural heritages around this area. So Croatia is between the Roman Empire and the Greek Empire. So we have that artistic heritage. And then afterwards, I just went to the academy for the professor. I was for the applied painting, and then afterwards for medal making. So we have a old traditional academy, so we can expand in all directions we want. So I went for the medalist, so I make like coins and medals for the smallest pieces, and then the big sculptures. And then afterwards, I went to the University of Applied Science in Germany for cultural heritage. So you have a wide range of action in art, but Picasso was also the one who said that he taught himself all the techniques and then realized at the end of his life that he has to return to the child's freedom that he had when he was a little boy, without those boundaries that the world put around you. So, you know, it's interesting world because you live between the. I have a factory here, so practically you're in industry, but at the same time you have to be free, you know, let go of yourself, and you know, flow into the chaos, so from the chaos you can create.
Oh.
That's my point of view.
Yeah, interesting because I think a lot of people fear the chaos, right? But if you can harness the power and the energy of the chaos, then creativity can absolutely, come to the forefront. So really fascinating.
Yeah.
Thank you for taking us on that sort of journey as to, where you started. And yeah, that childlike play, that playfulness, is something that as an adult we need to try to cultivate that, because that's where the joy and the bliss in life happens as well, through those moments. So, quite fascinating. You mentioned Picasso, certainly a great artist. Many artists, of course, having their own styles. But what I found really interesting in your pieces, and the art, that you have and that you've created is really, it's so varied. I mean, really different types and different, mediums that you're using. And to me, that's fascinating because, I mean, I know for myself, if I were to try to draw something, I mean, I'd be impressed if I created a one piece of art, and you have so many, and the scale, including the Tesla power line, which is, such an impressive metal structure, a giant sort of Tesla sculpture. But I'd love to talk about really that, how did you even come up with some of these pieces? What was it that sort of got you inspired to create the range that you've amassed?
So the artist should write the time that he lives in. The science are here to take us to the future, and the art is to remember the past. And that's my point of view of those two disciplines.
Okay.
So we live in the industrial age, with concrete, steel
Mm-hmm.
technology, and making a marble sculpture is for the time of Michelangelo and for those old type artists. And
Mm-hmm.
today's artists, contemporary artists, should use the materials that are creating the world right now. So in one of my studies, I was practically driving to the sea, and I saw those big power lines that hold the
Mm-hmm.
electricity poles, and I was thinking, okay, we have Nikola Tesla. He was born here in Croatia, and I'm trying to put art in every aspect where I can in the physical reality. So I was thinking, why shouldn't we have a big Tesla power line right on the, practically he reinvented electricity. So he was holding electricity in palms of his hands. So I thought, okay, he has to hold the power line. And I came up with the whole concept. We have in other part of Croatia, we have the oak tree that you can find in the ground, tens of thousands years old, that has fallen down. And so we have a lot of things to shape in the art way, but to put it in practical use. So it's practically, the power line is also a symbol of Tesla, reminder of his legacy to the world. And that was practically my idea. So I made a sketch from the sketch was 12 meters tall, because the real power line should be like 50 meters.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Fascinating. So this sculpture now has a resting place. So tell us about where that is.
He was I had a sculpture in my studio. He was lying on the floor, because you cannot put it anywhere.
Yeah.
So my home city, Varazdin, commissioned that Tesla that I have, and they put it in front of the building that has spaces for new creative technologies and industries. So it fits perfectly in front of that building. But as I said, that was only the sketch. The real one, the real one should be bigger. But there was a time when Tesla went from his hometown through my hometown in Hungary. So it was a stop for him, and they had a story, and we put Tesla, so the people can look. You have a concept with the building, and everything fits perfectly.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And I think, obviously art is very relative, right? So everybody sees something different. But I love to, get the true meaning, from the artist like yourself, and explaining that. I mean, it's fascinating to have all of those elements come together so beautifully. And then to see your artwork, out there standing, tall, the giant, I'm sure the
Yeah,
largest statue of Tesla, out there in the
yeah, it
world.
is.
So what does that feel like for you to have that kind of validation to see your art pieces, whether it's in front of a building or in the museum and the exhibitions or the workshops?
I would put art in the sector of, let's say, Zen Buddhism. It's like practice.
Hmm.
And when you make a sculpture, you are happy when the sculpture goes away and lives their own life somewhere else. So it's like children, you let go eventually.
Yep.
So it's you have a purpose to make people happy. That's my point of view. I think it's a lot of people have ideas and they believe in ideas, and my job is to put those ideas in manifest them in reality. So once it goes out of my studio, I'm very happy, because I have an empty space to fill up with more sculptures. So that's the flow that keeps on going.
Wow. Oh, I love that. It's interesting because I think, practicing that non-attachment can be difficult for a lot of people, right? So, wow. I mean, that's on a big scale, right? When you can have that kind of that level of non-attachment. It's like the sand mandalas. You create that
Yeah.
design with the sand, and then you just erase it, like as if it didn't even exist. But
Yeah,
again,
the principle with that sculpture over here, I
mhm.
think I'm showing it right, is exactly that. So you have a face it's called persona, because in Greek, the person derives from persona, and persona was a title for a face mask that you wear as an actor in the theater.
Mm.
So we are all masks of something, a father, a brother, name, job. And I I have to cut like 4,000 little pieces of metal and then weld it two sides, so you have 8,000 welds on on one sculpture, and you
Wow.
have to, cherish each one of them to be perfect. And then when you're finished, you just have to let it go. So
Wow.
it's that kind of Zen life.
Yeah, absolutely. So 8,000 pieces, that is a lot of work. I can't even imagine how long that would have taken you. But it's interesting because it started off with your uncle, giving you a piece of metal. Here, go,
Yeah,
create.
grandfather.
Oh, sorry, your grandfather. Yeah, to say, hey, create something. And then next thing you know, 8,000 pieces later, in one
Yeah,
sculpture.
exactly.
Today I think a lot of the, parents, and no fault of theirs. I mean, this is what happens. You want to keep your kids occupied, and they're busy, they're on the go, and they're out, and they hand them a laptop. Right here, here's a phone, here's a
Yeah,
laptop. So very different in terms of, fostering a creative mindset. And listen, the laptops and tablets and all that kind of stuff, and the phones. I mean, they can absolutely be creative. Depending on what you're using those devices for. But the actual creation process, I think, is it really helps the imagination come to life. As kids, younger kids that would go and play outside. Now they're staying a little bit more indoors and sedentary and playing video games. And I think that it just activates a different part of the brain. And so if we can learn to maybe find a balance between those two worlds, I think that we can see a lot of benefits going forward. So what is your take on, children today and the creative mind?
well, I was born before the internet took over the world.
Yeah.
So I had, the workshop and the books. So I was, practically a lonely child. I was always kept for myself. So
Mm-hmm.
I read books like, I don't know, Marcus Aurelius or Sun Tzu, The Art of War, and those kind of philosophical, strategical stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I found meaning in that sacrifice you give when you are creating something. And today, I understand kids being on the cell phones because they're connected, but
Mm-hmm.
I think this is more disconnecting than connecting people, because in the end you truly need a contact, you need interaction, social interaction. But on the creative part, you can find something creative in, let's say, video games, but it's not the same. The world still need somebody to produce stuff, to create art. It's not, I should say, art is more than a luxury than necessity, and
Mm-hmm.
you need bread every day, but you don't need artwork every day. So kids were more creative, as I remember, back in my youth, because they have to invent games to keep them occupied.
Mm-hmm.
Today you have everything in the palm of your hand, so there's not there's it's more technological age, and we have to accept that, because all the ages in the history are repeating itself in a contrast. You had like one part that was focused on humans, and then the other part was focused on God. Let's say that's a Romantic and Gothic period. Then you had
Mm-hmm.
like new technologies, then you have spirituality, and today we have technology. So we just have to wait. I have to wait for the next period, in 50, 60 years to come back to the start. So that's my
Interesting.
point of view, right,
Yeah.
of the periods of time.
Yeah, I love that. And, perhaps we're going to see a lot of art in the future that incorporates the technology aspect of things, so it's
You
going to be
already have
interesting.
like
Mm-hmm.
artificial intelligence creating
Mm-hmm.
art, but you can see it doesn't have that aura. It doesn't have the spirit inside. You don't see the sacrifice of a human making that art. So I think now we will be entertained for a
Mm-hmm.
few years by that, and then we'll go back to the handmade unique products, let's say.
Yes, I love that. Amazing. All right, listen, I'm absolutely enjoying this conversation. We have to take a short break here on Saga 960. You're listening to the Mindset Mentor. I'm Tania Kolar. My special guest today is Nikola Vudrag, and he is a visual artist. He specializes in creating incredible, works of art, from paintings and sculpture, metal works, really extraordinary pieces, a wonderful range. He's joining me from Croatia today, and stay tuned. We'll have more from Nikola when we come back. And welcome back to the Mindset Mentor. I'm Tania Kolar, helping you cultivate a life you love. And in fact, today we're helping you cultivate an artistic mindset. Yes, you can be creative, even though you think, you have no creativity whatsoever. You absolutely do. Everyone has their own talents. And of course, art is subjective. I mean, you can really, it's relative, right? What is it that you see? As they say, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. But it's really fascinating to get, inside the mind of an artist to understand, how they intended the art to be viewed or to be felt. I mean, it really awakens the senses. And today, my special guest is Nikola Vudrag, who is joining me all the way from Croatia. What a pleasure, Nikola, to have you on the show. We're going to just dive right back into the conversation. And by the way, I hope everyone has a chance to take a look at the video. You can go to Tania Kolar on my YouTube channel, because you're going to see Nikola, in his apartment. He's got incredible works of art in the background. I actually thought, Nikola, that you were in your studio earlier when we first, connected, and I thought, wow. And you said earlier, it's like you're living in a museum. I love it.
Yeah, it's I have a workshop downstairs, so everything it's an artistic point of view. Everything I need, I just go to the studio and I take the steel, I weld it and put it in my apartment. So, everything, you don't see the rest. Everything is made, from metal. I have a book collection, so I needed a bookshelf. I go down, I weld it, I put it back in. And that's the creative lifestyle.
Yes, everything is so perfectly curated, and so unique to your sense of style and taste, and and love. And I think that our spaces are really an extension of our personality, so it should reflect that. And I always say that if there's something in your environment that you don't love to look at, then you should get rid of it, right?
Yeah,
Because doesn't it affect your mood? I mean, art definitely brings out the senses. So I think it's kind of interesting in that regard. So you talked, earlier about Picasso, and I wanted to get an idea as to some of your, the artists that were inspirations to you. Because again, like your art is so varied, and you have so many different aspects, and I'm imagining some different influences of who your inspirations would be.
Well, actually, my inspirations weren't artists. I really love Gustav Eiffel, because of the mindset that he had, where when whole France, every living person in Paris was telling him not to do the Eiffel Tower, eventually he became friend with the president just to make that tower on the expo in 130 years. So, I like to say, hard as steel, strong as will. You must have the willpower to, come to the studio every day and work from early morning to late night to create something. And people who are my inspiration are not artists; they are constructors that constructed the world, like Tesla, like Gustav Eiffel. Because fun fact, Eiffel Tower was the first building that was taller than the pyramids, and from the pyramids to the Eiffel Tower, there was nothing taller than them. So he made a great. He built with steel. He built our today's world that we have, like Tesla electrified it. So those are the people that like to make changes. Or for example, Joseph Beuys, the artist, he was conceptual artist, and he was planting trees, and he's long dead. And throughout Germany, you have trees of Joseph Beuys, through the cities, by the highways, and that sort of people were my inspiration because they never gave up. That's the point. When they were hungry, they didn't give up. When the whole world was against them, they knew they were right and pursued their goals. And that I think is the more that's something that's more powerful than talent or anything else.
Oh,
Conviction and
yes.
discipline,
Yes,
because
conviction.
discipline is the
Hmm.
highest form of freedom.
I love that, and taking action, right, to go
Yeah,
for it. And so clearly, your role models, so to speak, had a growth mindset, right? So
yeah,
there's a growth mindset and there's a fixed mindset when we believe that we can't do something and we're resigned to just have to work with what we have. But when you foster a growth mindset, you can achieve anything. But it takes commitment, it takes persistence, it takes that discipline, as you say. But it's so worth it to go for it. And, I think it's a great reminder for everybody listening. Yes, you can absolutely go for it. Cultivate the life you love. If things are not working out for you, sometimes, you want to look at it as, hey, that is an opportunity. It's an opportunity to say, hey, this doesn't feel good. So what can I do to change this situation or circumstance in order to, do something else that does feel good? I think we need to welcome that in. Sometimes we fear that, oh, when things don't feel good, it's scary to sort of, start to delve into that feeling a little bit deeper. But I think it's so rewarding when you can actually pinpoint the cause of what those feelings are suggesting. And, I think art is incredible too because of the fact that it's really, allowing us to be very expressive. And I think that when we,
yeah. You have a very wide range. Yeah. And
yeah.
in practical point of view, it looks like this. I want to make a sculpture that floats in the air. Okay, my problem is gravity. Where's my Isaac Newton book? Let's conquer gravity. And you don't stop until you conquer gravity. That's all to it.
Yeah. Yeah, so interesting. There was a tribe in Africa, and they had like scientists literally come to study this tribe because, every time, they would, it would rain when they would dance, right? And then it was interesting because when they actually followed the tribe, their secret is that they didn't stop dancing until it rained. So, right,
Yeah,
I thought,
exactly.
oh, that's so good. That's so good.
Exactly.
That's conviction, and persistence. So, really cool to hear that. Now, one of the things, that you special, or three of the things, that you sort of focus on is the scientific aspect, the linguistic, reference, and also the mythological themes. So let's delve into each of those. Let's maybe start with the science. What does that mean? What does it mean when you sort of focus on science, and how do you use science in art?
Well, first of all, as I told before, science and art are very close because science goes to the future and art writes the past. So,
Mm.
if you remember those old photographs of the cars, for example, in 60s
Mm-hmm.
when we went to the moon, the rockets had sort of shaped fins on the rockets, and you
Yep.
saw exactly the same things on the Cadillacs a few years after.
Oh
Because
yeah.
science was design was imitating science, and
Hmm.
it was they are very very closely. Abstract art looks very similar to microscopic biological life, and it's just if you zoom in or zoom out, that's the view. And in you have to when you do like 6, 7, 10 meter tall sculptures, you have to know statics. You need to calculate the wind and everything. So
Mm-hmm.
science really helps when you are making that Tesla sculpture. to stand, to have a wind resistance and everything. So, I live with lady science every day, and that's just normal part of life of a sculptor.
Wow, it's super cool.
In painting, you have like art of science of colors. I have a science of gravity, and all my friends like Isaac Newton and Gustav Eiffel and all the others.
Oh, I love that. So I know Tesla said if you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. So I'd love to
Exactly.
talk about energy as form, because again, you have a really cool way of looking at that form where there is no matter.
Well, you have an idea, and people like ideas because it's something beyond our material world. And it's my job to interpret that idea into the physical form. So it's like you have an idea of a chair, but you have thousands of variation of the chair.
Hmm.
That's then you have people they live by those ideas, like the idea of morals, idea of beauty, idea of monumentalism or whatever, and you have to put all your energy creating that sort of stuff, so you forget about yourself. And it's a bit complicated to explain, but when you stand in front of Mount Everest, you
Hmm.
forget about yourself, and you're just overtaken by the size of that mountain. That's the energy and the sacrifice you put when you make a sculpture. I know I have times when I'm so focused on creating the artwork.
Hmm.
I don't know where does this energy comes from, but I know I can like sit or stand for 6, 7, 10 hours, forgetting that I'm over here and
Wow.
just modeling the clay. So you are especially attuned to time, because when you model something and you have 100% focus on the clay, when you make, for example, a portrait, you forget to eat, you forget to stand, you forget to walk away, and it takes you over completely. So that's the energy, because I agree with you on the Tesla point of view of vibration and energy, because like those people who are dancing until it rains,
Mm.
artists should wait until he cannot create anymore.
Oh,
Joseph
nice.
Beuys, my favorite artist, was creating, to the last day of his life.
So beautiful. Yeah, fascinating. So, it's interesting. There's or actually, I'm going to just read it here because I wrote it down. So, in this a book called "The Science of Getting Rich" by Wallace D. Wattles, he writes about energy, and I just thought this kind of interesting. He says there's a thinking stuff from which all things are made, and which, in its original state, permeates, penetrates, and fills the interspaces of the universe. A thought in this substance produces the thing that is imagined by the thought. And then he goes on to say that man can form things in his thought, and by impressing his thought upon formless substance, can cause the thing he thinks about to be created. So it ties in so perfectly, with what you're saying. It's really entering into, I think, what we would call, today that people are familiar with, the flow state. Losing yourself in the 10 hours of standing there creating, as you spoke about, sort of losing yourself in that. That's the flow state. That's when everything just flows so beautifully. There's, I find that, more synchronicities that happen and show up in your life where it now becomes easy. I think we've gotten really used to having to work hard and thinking that, if you're not working hard, then it's not happening. But I think it's almost the opposite. You have to almost like decompress, come back to the self, find that formlessness space, and then, allow just to sort of be and see what shows up.
Yeah, that's we are now entering the linguistic territory,
Mm.
because people think in language, and the quality of your language uh, are shaping your world around you. So in those linguistic terms, it's very interesting when you manifest something in your mind. You have all the way back to the Gilgamesh or whatever myth was in the beginning with theology. Every religion in the world says the same thing, that words create, and even abracadabra on Old Hebrew means I create with my words. So what you think, you become. What you say might happen. So, watch what you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely. So that ties into language patterning. And, everyone, has a pattern and it's interesting. So one way to really recognize your patterns is to start writing out what you hear yourself saying throughout the day. And if you do that, let's say for a week, and you go back and you read, start circling the things that you've repeated, and you're going to absolutely find a pattern. I always find it really fascinating. And in fact, having a conversation with someone, I find it really easy to pick up their pattern in literally just, a few minutes of having a conversation with them. And most people are absolutely oblivious to our own patterns and our language, right? But other people can pick it up. It is important to listen to what you say. Like, think about it. How did you wake up this morning? Did you wake up and say, hey, I'm ready to start the day? Or did you say, oh my God, it's morning, right? So, and it's interesting because however you wake up, that attitude, it's a mindset, by the way, that's going to get carried out throughout your day. If you find yourself with that inner critic, the negative voice in your head that tells you that you're wrong, that you never do anything right, it's gonna give you instances to show that you're right, right? So harnessing the power of our language is so important.
Yeah, let's call it primitive. The primitive brain behind doesn't know the difference between reality and your own thoughts. So when you have a negative mindset, all the negative things start to create around you because you are the one creating them. And if you wake up, and you can tell your brain in the evening, I will wake up in 7 in the morning, and your brain will wake you up in 7 in the morning if you have the conviction. And you wake up and you put your bed together. This is the first act of some discipline in the early morning. And then I go to the studio and I start working because, I told my brain, okay, we will last 12 hours today or 20 hours. We will do that. We will conquer gravity. We will do, the mythology sculptures, and everything you say to your brain, he will find a way to manifest it.
Oh, I love that. And that's so good because we want to harness the power of manifestation and really, bring in the things that you want in life, right? So, really cool to be able to do that. So, we're going to take a really quick break and we're going to be right back here with more of the Mindset Mentor with my special guest today, Nikola Vudrag, joining me from Croatia. He is an artist that specializes in sculptures and paintings and in contemporary media and more. So, stay tuned and we'll be back after this. Welcome back to the Mindset Mentor. Hope you're having an absolutely phenomenal day. And if you take a look around you, I bet you there's some beautiful artistic pieces that really invoke a certain sense in you. It uplifts your mood. And I always say it's so important to be, cognizant of your surroundings. Surround yourself with the things and people that you love is certainly important. Well, we're going to continue the conversation with Nikola Vudrag. He is an incredible visual artist. And wow, I mean, your pieces, Nikola, are so varied. You have, giant sculptures, 12-meter, metalworks. You have awards and coins and fine art. So I'd love to talk about, the difference, because we were talking about earlier, sort of losing yourself in your art. And is there a difference in the size of the pieces that you're working with?
Of course it is, but let me just say, Tesla once said you have to finish your work in your head and make mistakes and then complete it in your head, and then you're going to the studio or to the workshop, and then you do it for real. So
Oh.
that's the same principle with big sculptures or
Mm-hmm.
small sculptures. But if you know how to do big sculptures, there's a probability that you are not so good in the small ones. But if you know the small ones, you can do the big ones. That's why I went to the school for coin making and medal making.
Mm-hmm.
And you have a space of like 10 centimeters the most, and you have to clear the symbols. You have to leave the good symbols on the coin so it can be clear. And you lose yourself in, you see only that little part of the plaster that you're modeling, and you have to model it in negative because you have to write the letters in negative, you have to engrave the portrait, and then afterwards you can see, in a few days you can see what you've done when you cast the positive side. So it's, you can get lost in the big sculpture, in the mathematical calculations, and you can get lost also in the small things, because they are like a vacuum. They take you in, and you're completely overtaken by a small coin. For example,
Hmm.
now Croatia is going to euro. We will have like euro coins.
Mm-hmm.
So I had that mission to make those euro coins, and I was 6 months living in my apartment. I didn't even went to the studio. I was living with those coins for 6 months. They were on my table every day. I wake up and go to sleep, and they were there. And they completely overtake you. But when once they're finished, that, for example, the whole country will pay with your piece of work, let's say. So it's rewarding for the big ones and for the small ones.
Yeah, that's so fascinating to see that, something so tiny, right, can have that much power drawing you in into that vacuum, as you say, right?
Yeah,
Interesting. So with the coins where you spent 6 months, with those
yeah.
coins, your children, were you still able to practice the art of Zen and that non-attachment?
Yeah, of course, of course. I mean, you have a purpose to fulfill. The Croatian Mint gives you the mission, and like Hercules, you have to accomplish those missions. Like the old mythology, he had to, I don't know, catch the Croatian-born. So I just have to make the coins. That's the, you live in your own mythology world when you're an artist, and I think that's the most beautiful thing in this job, because not the job, it's a calling, because you go to sleep as an artist, you wake up as an artist, you eat or drink coffee as an
Mm-hmm.
artist. So you're completely, I live a few months as a coin maker, then a few months as Hercules hunting down the Croatian bull, or any animal that he was hunting, and then afterwards I'm best friend with Tesla, because I have to know everything about him to make a sculpture of him. And I think I lived like thousands of lives in 32 years that now. So it's really, I couldn't imagine anything to do else in life.
Yeah, it's so interesting. It sounds like you're, living in another world, like an alternate reality, a matrix, right? And
Yeah,
really becoming one with the art, the pieces that you're creating, and really, tapping into that creative genius in the flow state. And so, do you have any advice for, an artist starting out on how they can, tap into that energy of creation?
yeah. In the beginning, everything will be cool. Wow, that's nice. I discovered something new, and then there will be periods after 5 or 10 years when you'll say, "Oh my God, will this agony ever end?" And then for real. And then I say the voices in your head. It's the ideas that always comes to you, and your or constant chatter in the head. You should do this. We should do that. And after some time, you learn to let go. You learn to embrace that chaos in your head, And when you embrace the chaos, you can control it. And when you can control the chaos, you can create whatever your mind is set upon.
Yeah, so interesting. Again, I think that we all have a tendency to want to control everything, right? And so
Yeah,
you try,
yeah,
to, control reactions in that, and the chaos can be scary, right? Because chaos is uncertain, and I think that's
yeah.
where people
But
fear.
you know, when you have a sculpture out of clay, I think it's the most clay is the earth, and you are directly connected to the earth. Metal is the bloodstream of the earth. You are also connected to something that from which you came from.
Mm-hmm.
So when you model clay, you don't control the clay and push it. You let it push back, and you're creating simultaneously.
Oh, wow.
And that I think that's the most important thing, not to control everything, but to work together with the material.
Yeah, wow. Spoken like a true artist, right? So it's been so great to really get inside the mindset of your incredible pieces. So how can the listeners or the viewers take a look at some of your art?
I have a Instagram page, a web page. They just Google Nikola Vudrag, and you will find, or Nikola Vudrag the artist, and you can find whatever you want.
Love it. Okay, so
I hope
Vudrag,
we
by
don't.
the way, is Vudrag. So I encourage you to have a look, and if you can, I also encourage you to have a look at the video. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel at Tania Kolar and have a look at the incredible pieces. Persona, right behind you there, that beautiful metal sculpture, really fascinating. One of the pieces that I loved as well that we didn't talk about, but also carries the name Tesla, was there's a face that you have, and it looks like an electric current. Do you know which one I'm
Yeah,
talking about, Nicola? Yeah,
yeah.
that's amazing. What is that one called?
It's a thunderbolt because it's made of a thunderbolt, and it's shaped like Tesla from the profile, and it's one of my favorite pieces. That one stays with me.
Oh, okay. Because yeah, that's impressive. Yeah, like incredible to see what you have created and accomplished in actually virtually, a short time. You're a young artist, and it's amazing to see that. I know your works have been featured in, Germany and Bulgaria, Paris, Slovenia, obviously Croatia,
Yeah.
and so many more places. So I want to acknowledge you for the incredible work that you are creating and how you're invoking this incredible feeling and passion in others and also inspiring others. So you definitely have found your calling, what is authentic to you and what resonates to you. So again, keep up the incredible work. And it's been an absolute pleasure having you here on the Mindset Mentor.
Thank you for having me in the show.
All right, everybody. Well, that is a wrap. And wow, so incredible to see what you can create once you put your mindset to something, once you have the conviction. Oftentimes we talk ourselves out of doing anything, before we even get started, right? It's our mindset. So remember that our mindset needs to be strengthened and conditioned, and you can create a life that feels good because I want you to live your best life, and you can do it. So make sure you tune in next Thursday at 3 p.m. for more of the Mindset Mentor, and stay tuned. Saga 960 coming up next.